we're going to carry on talking about Pulumi and Azure Container Instances, and specifically how we can deploy using that. Last time around, we had some trouble. We weren't able to deploy our Pulumi Azure Container Instances infrastructure. And I spoke to the Azure Container Instances team. I found out a lot more about it. So I also spent some time improving some of the code, and we'll just run through that now. And I'll show you what was done. So first of all, last week, when we were deploying our Pulumi app using the Pulumi up command, we were getting a timeout issue. And turns out the reason for that is that down here in the scale arguments, where we're trying to scale the thing up and down, we had an uppercase C over here for concurrent requests, and that needs to be lowercase. And there was also another issue with, I think, Canada Central or Northern Europe. I can't remember. So I spoke to the Azure Container Instances team and got them to sort that out. It's actually an advantage to work in Microsoft because you can just ping people internally and find out what's what and get them to fix things. So that was awesome. So I also made some changes to this code. So I forgot to switch to my desktop. So yeah, here's the scale code and concurrent requests, this setting, which is just a string. Unfortunately, that needed to be lowercase. So other changes I made to this code was that I cleaned up some of the naming conventions. If I go to Azure, it's a lot clearer. So I looked at resource groups. I gave a nice resource group convention. So like the name of the app, whether it's an application resource group or a common one that applies to all. The location, followed by the environment, followed by some random stuff that Pulumi adds to make the resource group unique. And if we go to the resources themselves, I also applied a very similar naming convention here. So the name of the thing that we're creating, so a log analytics or a cube environment, or I'll come on to why these are different in a sec. And then the location, and then the environment, and then Pulumi's random stuff. Azure Container Apps, unfortunately, is a bit different. Let me zoom in here. It requires a shorter name, and I think that's because it's in preview. Maybe when it will go into production, it will be a lot better. So that's that. So I set up that naming convention. I also made some changes to my YAML file. So now I can have multiple locations where I want my Azure container apps, not container instances, deployed. So there's only 2 locations where Azure Container Apps can get deployed to right now: Canada, Central, and Northern Europe. So I did both of those, and then I also needed a common location where I can put my log analytics and things like that. So that I added that there. So now the code looks a bit like this. So I create my common resource group. I create a workspace, a log analytics workspace in that common location. I then get the shared key from that workspace, and then I iterate over my locations. So Canada, Central, and Northern Europe. Create a new resource group called an app resource group. Get a cube environment, create a new one of those in that resource group, create the container app itself, pull out the URL, and then I stick the URLs into this collection, and then later on into this output variable over here. And this outputs an immutable array of URLs. So if I run this, I get my URLs with my Azure Container Instances apps all set up. So I can navigate to those over here, and that gives me this one. And if I go to the other one in Northern Europe, that gives me this one over here. And I think you can see the location here in the host name. This one is Northern Europe, and this one is Canada Central here. So that's cool. The next step, of course, would be to set up something like Azure Traffic Manager or Cloudflare traffic to load balance between these two. And that would give you one URL you can access, and then wherever you are in the world, it will go to the right location, whichever is closest to you or whichever is more performant. Or indeed, if one of these goes down, it will go to the one that works. So that's cool. Maybe we'll look at that in a next episode. So then the next thing I thought I would do, if we go to the Northern Europe one, copy that URL, is maybe load test it. And so I have this tool called Netling. It's really easy to use because it provides a nice simple UI. And then if we bombard it with some requests, maybe we can see in the Azure portal how it's so we can see the results here of our requests going through, request throughput. Maybe we can see it scaling up and down. So what's going on here? It's a bit slow. Replicas 4. So interesting, traffic caused the number of replicas to go up there. Would our log analytics be a better place to see that information? So if we go here, and I'm not really too into log analytics. I don't really know how it works too much. Yeah, I have no idea where to look here. Access control, custom logs, ingestion API. Yeah, maybe I will spend some more time reading about this and finding out where these logs actually end up in here. But it looks like when you go to the container app itself, it does tell you how many instances have been created. So it looks like it provisioned 4 of them for a while. Oh, we've gone up to 10 replicas. So it was provisioning 10. Interesting. And now that our load test has ended, it should go back down. I wonder how long that takes. So if we keep refreshing that, maybe we'll get an idea for how long that takes. And you can only have a maximum of 25 replicas as well. So that's one potential disadvantage of using Azure Container Apps. You don't get infinite scalability. So it's more for kind of smaller apps. You could scale up instead, so get a bigger instance. So right now I'm using a quarter of a CPU core and half a gig of memory. If I chose to, I could switch that over. I can also go and change my scaling rules. So right now, if I get 10 concurrent requests, we want to scale up. I could say make that 20. It's something that you'd have to measure using a load testing tool and seeing what's the point at which your container gives up the ghost and starts erroring. So that's something to look into. So that's that. Let's go back to the site really quick and see if the number of replicas is still at 10. It still is, yeah. So we'll come back to this occasionally and we'll spy on this and see when it goes up and down. We do have, I think I specified 10 replicas as a maximum, and then concurrent requests is 10. So we'll see what the cooldown period is of that and see when it goes down. In the meantime, I thought I would talk about testing a little bit. So I went on the Pulumi website. I discovered that you can unit test your Pulumi code, which I thought was amazing. So I started to write a quick test over here. So here's an XUnit project with some tests. They ask you in the tutorial for Pulumi to add this code over here, and this just creates, I'm using MOQ here, creates some mock resources and allows you mock deployments and things like that. So then, so you can use that testing infrastructure here, pass in your stack, get your resources out, and I just wanted to write a test to check that all resources have tags specified on them. So I'm pulling out my tags from this resource, and I'm using a bit of reflection here in this function down here. And if we've managed to find a resource with tags, we pull out the tags, ensure that they're not null, and we expect to see an application tag and an environment tag set. Right now, I don't know. I've just put that in so that it can fail. So I ran this and it totally failed on me, which was a bit sad. And the error I got was complaining about the configuration. Come on. It's thinking. Let's check this really quick. Back down to 1. So it takes a couple of minutes to go back down. That's pretty quick. The scale down there. I wonder if I can upgrade to like 50 concurrent requests. I wonder what would happen then. Is it gonna let me do that? Why can't I type? Oh, I've got numlock on. There we go. Increase to 50 concurrent requests. So we'll deploy that and we'll run our load test again. If we go back to our test code, the error that we got here is it's better if I debug it actually. Pretty slow today, not sure why. Come on, you can do it. Here we go. It's thinking. Come on, you can do it. There we go. So I have my configuration here, and when I'm requiring that configuration exists, it's saying missing configuration variable. Please set the value using command Pulumi set. So obviously it can't find the Pulumi configuration file. So I went and looked at a GitHub issue around this, and it turns out, yeah, configuration is not supported, which makes unit testing pretty useless. So I thought I would work around that. And the workaround for that is pretty simple. If we create an interface, so if we extract an interface from this guy, and we'll just copy this, add new item. Oh my god, why did I do new item? It takes forever. Interface, and we'll call this iConfiguration. Oops, mistyped that. There we go. And we'll just take these properties, stick them in here, and make them make them not static for a start, and make them getters. So there's that, and we'll just remove some of this unnecessary stuff down here. And remove the static keyword. Cool. Now we have an interface. Why is this complaining? What have I missed? You know what? I've written so much JavaScript lately. I think have I forgotten how to write any? Oh, that's the string, of course. There we go. I've written so much JavaScript lately, I've forgotten how to code. So then we'll go back to our configuration and set this interface over here, and we'll stop this being a static and remove the static everywhere. Config should begin with the lowercase letter. We'll do that, and we'll use this dot everywhere because that's the convention that I personally use. And what's this complaining about? It's a static class. We don't want a static class anymore. So now we have our configuration. Now in here we can write a static property, static configuration get equals new configuration. So now where everything is still building, everything should still work. And in our test, we can write a test configuration class. Test configuration public class configuration. Implement that, and now we can just make this. Whoops. We can just make all of these getters and setters, so we can set them in our test. And we'll get rid of some of these unnecessary usings, and application name equals default. We're going to initialize this in a second. Oh, we can just use init. Init properties. Do we still need default then? Yes, we do. Okay. So we'll create a new test configuration here, and we'll take our class and test configuration. Pass in the new test configuration. Oh, it's read only, and we need to set that, make it settable. And that should be okay now. And here we will new up our application name. We'll call that test. And common location equals, we'll just pick North Europe. Container image name equals I don't know, image name environment equals test, locations equals immutable array dot create. That's not a bad idea, to create an immutable array there instead of another array. And we'll just pick North Europe and Canada Central. So now this should work in theory. Let's check. Let's debug through it. So we've got our new configuration. Oh, did that just fail? Trying to acquire deployment.instance before run was called. Is it complaining because it's trying to new up one of these here? That's probably where I've gone wrong. So I need to set configuration. How do I do this here? So if configuration is null, not equals null, is null. It's better to use is null. The reason for that is equals null uses the equals operator. It's a bit slower. And we'll just set equals default. Yeah. And let's give that test another go. We'll just go back to our tests. Try to new that up now. This is a bit hacky. And once Pulumi figures out a way of doing this properly without this hack, then you can write tests like this in a proper way without this sort of hack, using the standard configuration API. So we'll step over that. We'll get our resources. We got a resource. What resource is this? This is the Azure Container Apps stack. Let's see if we can get tags from that. No, we can't. So we'll skip that one. Now we have a resource group. Oh, that I hit F5 by mistake. We seem to have thrown an exception when getting tags from the resource group. So just gonna see if I can debug that, figure out what went wrong, and enable debug, Windows, exception settings, common language runtime. So that was the first one. This is the second one. Tags.property type. Tags get value is probably the one that's erroring. Non-static method requires a target. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. I want to pass that in there. I think I passed null by accident. Let's try that again. This time we'll stick a breakpoint in here, see what tags we got. What is going on with my machine? Let me see if I can close some things down, make it a bit faster. I have Docker running. Maybe that was it. So we have tags now. We have 2 tags, environment test and application is test as well. So we should probably rename some of these things. So the application name, test app, we'll call that test app. And we want to check that that is the same as that. And our environment is test, and we want to call that. And we'll just run that through now. Hopefully this should pass now. Thinking about it. There we go. We got a green test because all of the tags have been set up by me. Already in here. So I'm always setting the tags. Cool. So now we have tags. Let me just commit that. And all the code is in the link in the description. Add test to check all tags are set. That's a pretty cool test to have. Something you'd want to check. The next thing we can look at is this documentation over here. So there are GitHub actions which you can set up, which will deploy your Pulumi code. So here's the first one. If I go over here and we'll create a .github folder, .github, and we'll create a new file, and we'll just call it a text file for now. And I think this one is called pull request.yaml. They have an underscore in there. File I prefer a dash. And this is located at the root of the project. We'll just stick this in here. So this GitHub actions action fires on each pull request, and it runs on Ubuntu latest, checks out the code, setup.net. So we probably want to set up a global.json file really quick to make sure we're always using the latest version of .net. And I'm just going to copy and paste one really quick into my project. So we'll just go over here, and if I paste that in there, add it as a solution item, because the solution doesn't reflect what's in the directory, and we'll use version 6.0.100 .NET 6 latest version. Allow pre-release. No, I want to allow pre-release. In fact, I can just get rid of that, I think. And then in actual fact, I think you can just remove the version here and it will pick up the one in global.json. Let me just quickly check that. I have another one here that I've used. Setup.net. Yep, that's the way it works. And I actually needed to move that YAML file into a workflows directory. So we'll call this guy needs to be in a YAML directory. So .github move that in there, and we'll call this workflows, and we'll stick that in there as well. And just for fun, I'm going to copy and paste the CodeQL analysis workflow, GitHub Actions workflow as well. That should be workflows. And that can move under there, and this gonna get removed. And we'll add our workflows in here. Cool. So this CodeQL is just a security scanning tool that GitHub provides, and it runs on a cron job and also on pull requests and pushes to the main branch, and it just checks your C# code for any security vulnerabilities. And you can check other languages as well. You can just configure them here and stick them in the array. So I'll just stick that in for fun. And over here we'll go back to our code, and here we're configuring AWS credentials, but we need to configure Azure credentials. So configure Azure credentials, and we'll figure out what we need to stick in here in a moment. And then we have a Pulumi GitHub action. It's using the preview command, which I believe Pulumi preview. We'll check that development stack that we have, and I think this just previews any changes that would go up to live but does not deploy them. So on a pull request, it would basically be running this and sticking this in the chat. I think it's just saying all up resources are up to date. So we didn't actually make any changes. Stack name is development. Pulumi access token is a secret that I need to stick into my GitHub action. So if I go to my Pulumi site, I have to log in. I will do that off screen really quick. I'm using a password manager, so it takes longer than usual. And then settings, I think it's in my settings. I can get hold of an access token. Access tokens, we'll create a new access token, and this will be called GitHub Actions. Create that token, and I will change this after this is over, so nobody can game that. And we'll go into settings, actions, secrets, new repository secret, stick that in there, and the secret is called Pulumi access token, so we'll stick that secret in there, add the secret. So now we have our Pulumi access token involved there, and now all we need to do is figure out how to log into Azure. There's also another workflow that they have when you actually push. This one does the actual deployment. So we'll just create a really quick YAML file for that as well. New item, text file, push.yaml. And that's going to create in the wrong place, isn't it? GitHub workflows, new text document, push.yaml, and we'll add that here, paste that in, and we also want the same thing here, pick up the right version. And we don't use a master branch, we use main, because master is related to slavery. and development is what our stack name is called, our Pulumi stack name. And then we just need to figure out what to do here with this AWS configuration. So we want to configure Azure credentials, but we need to figure out what to put here to log into Azure. So let's go and do that. So we've created those two. Configuring your secrets. So we have, so they've shown Google credentials here and the Pulumi access token. We already added that one. For Azure, we need these three. ARM client ID, ARM client secret, and ARM tenant ID. So how do we'll figure out how to get those. Let's check that out. Let's go back up here. It was client ID, client secret, tenant ID. So it looks like we need to do this particular setup down here. So I think normally I was using this. So I was using AZ login. I'd logged in with my Azure account, and then any Pulumi commands that I was using, like Pulumi up, would use that login information to get the right authentication rights to set things up correctly. However, there's a separate option here to use a service principal. So to set that up requires a bit of work. You can create a service principal using the Azure CLI. So let's figure out how to do that, and the page cannot be found. That's the first bad thing I found about their docs. Azure Cloud Shell or the Azure portal. Let's see if that one works. I can never remember how to do this. Service principal. Well, let's just go here. It'll probably be in the docs. Using PowerShell. And this is using the commandlets and instead of the Azure CLI. Let's quickly Google that. I want it to be repeatable and with the Azure CLI. Perfect. The command we need is azad name, service principal name, role equals contributor. What role do we need? So I'll just try that off screen just in case. Service principal name, we'll call it Pulumi sample. We'll just go with that for now. And since the password is sensitive, so we got our output, which looks very much like this off screen, and okay, so it's also saying that I should have passed in a role of contributor. So this is the correct command that I should have used over here. So I'll make a note of that somewhere. Where should I put them? It should probably go in here somewhere in the repo. but we'll come on to that later. And then going back to the Pulumi docs, my app ID is the client ID. So that's my client ID. Password is the client secret. So client ID, client secret, and the Pulumi tenant ID is the tenant ID. Okay, so I have all of those now written down. I need to stick those into GitHub, create some new secrets. So I'm going to create the client ID, and I think it doesn't matter if you see that. We'll create the ARM client ID, and I'm going to take that off screen really quick and create that secret. And I'll also create the ARM tenant ID secret. I don't know, that's not a secret. So there we have our secrets. So we have our Azure secrets created now. And so now we need to go back here. And what do we do here? Create a new access token. We did that. Add secrets. We did that. And we've run out of documentation for what to do next. Sign up for Pulumi, clone, blah, blah, blah. What have we missed? Create a new Pulumi access token. We did that. ARM client ID. Let's go back to this documentation here. It says I can set this configuration up, but this is for local use. What I really want is on GitHub Actions, I want an equivalent of AWS Actions configure AWS credentials. So maybe if we go to GitHub Actions, we'll figure something out. So I'll just check these in for now. Save that all. Add actions. Add GitHub Actions. We'll go check that in. We're going to get failures because we're not logged in, but push that out and we'll log into GitHub Actions, refresh the screen, and we have our actions already sorted. Failure. Step must define a user's or run key. So now I can just go here to GitHub Workflows, pull requests, and I can edit this and it will take me to the GitHub Actions page, and I can type Azure login, and this will just work in theory. So we'll just copy that, paste that in there. Azure login with credentials, post the output of Azure add as a value of secret variable Azure credentials. So there was another way of doing this that was probably easier. Creds. Azure credentials, client ID, tenant ID, scripts enable. Azure PowerShell login in addition to Azure CLI login. Name of the environment. Supported values are Azure Cloud, Azure Stack, Azure Government. We're not using any of that. Audience. Okay, so the easiest way of doing this actually was just to use creds, paste the output of Azure AD as a value of a secret. So we'll create that secret over here and delete the previous ones because I think it's just way easier to have one secret that deals with your Azure credentials as opposed to 3. And that's called Azure credentials, and I'm just going to stick that bit of JSON in there. And we'll go back here, creds optional, and this goes in fact let's read some more on this. Yeah, he's doing the same thing as me. I think that's right. Cool. Let's get rid of this. And that's very easy looking. So commit that. We'll go to our other workflow, our push workflow, and also commit that. So now if I go to actions, we should see this guy should actually push. So it's firing up Ubuntu. Checkout was quick. Installing .NET Core. SDK. Azure login failed. Please check the credentials. Add a new secret. This looks different. Let's pull that with creds. It's got creds rather than credentials, which is odd. So I'm not sure which one is right. So to log in with one of the government actions, log in with Azure Service Principal with a secret, follow this guidance over here. So let's follow that one. Add them as secrets in the GitHub repository and then use them in the workflow. Follow the steps to configure Azure Service Principal with a secret. Define a new secret under your repository settings. Name, role contributor, scopes, SDK auth. Not, we didn't do SDK auth. Azure credentials. That's what we did. Secrets. Azure credentials. Now in the workflow flow in the branch, replace the secret in Azure login action with your secret. Refer to the example above. Secrets Azure credentials. What am I missing? This person has done it separately. Let's go back to the error. Maybe I will change the secret, update it again. That shouldn't make a difference though. Maybe I had a rogue character in there or something. Actions. If we go in here, rerun that job. Come on. Nope. Maybe I should try this one. This one is saying use the word credentials with credentials. Seems to have a different setup here. Sample Azure action. Oh, okay, that's just not the one that we're interested in. Maybe I should have also passed in SDK auth. I'm not sure what the SDK auth parameter does. So if I go to --help, is that going to tell me? Deprecated output result is incompatible with Azure SDK auth file. So don't use that. It'll be removed in version 3. So this documentation looks a bit old. That's a bit rubbish. Secrets Azure credentials. I suppose we could switch back to the method of doing things individually. Azure Stack Hub. Configure deployment credentials. This action doesn't implement Azure logout by default at the end of execution. However, there is no way of tampering credentials. So this guy is saying it's a good idea to use Azure logout, Azure cache purge, Azure account clear at the end. So we'll stick that in. Hey, Azure CLI version. What's the latest Azure CLI version? AZ version 2.29 29.0. I wonder if I can just use the latest. Getting sidetracked here a little bit. Just want it to use the latest. Make sure to either use the default value of Azure CLI version or version above 2.3.30 for all workflows using GitHub hosted agents. Okay, so it looks like I have an old version, 2.29. If we just omit it, I think we can just use the latest version. So I will do that and stick that in there as well. Okay, so add az logout cache purge and count clear. Push that. So creds Azure login. Let's get to the Azure login GitHub repo. See what people are saying. Let's check out the error and paste that in. Login failed in this repository. So this person looks like they're using something similar to us. They passed the exact command that they told them to. Pasted that in. Recreated resources in Azure, use. Okay, maybe I should pass that exact command as opposed to doing my own thing. So let's do that. Let's try that out. I'm going to do that off screen because it has some sensitive information in it. Oh, I need to move this into one line. So let's quickly do that. Don't know if I need this SDK auth thing. And resource group, like, I don't want to scope to a particular resource group. So what do I do here? I wonder if I can. -- help scope space separate list of scopes of service principals role assignment applies to default to the root of the current subscription. That's what I want. So if I don't pass it, it will just default to the subscription. Displays the name of the service principal, skip assignment, cert, create cert, key vault. I think what I had before should have worked, except maybe this SDK auth thing. Let's try this off screen. Oh, I got a lot more stuff that time in the output, so maybe that's what it was. I'm going to paste that in. Okay, I got a lot more stuff in the output. There were many more lines, so that's probably what it was. So let's go and rerun all the jobs. They should work now, in theory. Oh, looks like it's doing something this time, maybe. Yeah, cool. Azure login worked successfully, and then our Pulumi action didn't. That's interesting. Oh, I know. Not found in the current directory. Okay, that's my fault. The Pulumi actions v3. I'll need to pass a path to the code that I have. Let's go back here, Pulumi actions. And the configuration is stack name, command, working directory, location of your Pulumi files. There we go. We need to set this to be it's the path to source / this guy. Source / that. That should work. If I set that on the other one as well. Set working directory. It's always worth checking this for other options that are worth setting. Never accept the defaults. The Pulumi backend to log into. Comment on PR. The action will add the results of the Pulumi action to the PR. I think that would be cool. Comment on PR, true. Comment on PR, true. Hold on. There was a thing in the in here about commenting on PRs. Try it out. Okay, so try it out. Click the logs. This is what happens. In theory, you see install our GitHub app. So they have this GitHub app as well. And that you can install. Only select repositories. Pulumi sample, install. And I need to pass in my password, which I can do. Okay, I think, is that installed? Yep, I think that's installed. So I installed the Pulumi app, and that gives you some nice comments. Like these. that show up in your GitHub PRs. GitHub UI. The alternative is comment on PR. Yeah. To allow, if you don't want to use the GitHub app, you can configure Pulumi's GitHub Actions to copy the output onto the pull request using comment on PR. Okay, so comment on PR is like a less good way of doing this, a less nice way. Let's have a look. We've still got a failure. No Pulumi project found in the current working directory. If you're using the stack flag, make sure you pass the fully qualified name. Okay. Oh. Has it not? Did I not push? I didn't push. Schoolboy error. I don't want that setting since we installed the app. So we're going to push to the working directory. We set the working directory now. And this one should work and do everything we need it to. We're logging in. We're running Pulumi. Updating development. Yeah, look at that. It's running Pulumi. That's awesome. So if I create a PR now, let's create a quick PR and we'll change the number of concurrent requests to, we'll change it to 30. What am I doing? I normally use this, the git add, git commit, git switch -- create, update concurrent requests, git push. Is that faster than using the UI? I don't know, I think it is. And we have our change here. We'll create that pull request. And we should get some Pulumi stuff showing up here so that we have our build, Pulumi build, and our CodeQL security scanning build scheduled. And that didn't work, where we set the Pulumi working directory. I wonder what happened. .NET build. Authenticating using the Azure CLI is only supported as a user, not a service principal. Oh, okay. So we know what the problem there is. We should have followed the instructions to the letter. We don't need to install the app anymore. In here, where it talks about this guy, it wants everything individually, and then we have to set these guys. Maybe I can set this now. Is it too late? Let me see, do I still have that in my history? I don't. So I want Pulumi config client ID. I'm just going to execute these commands. And Pulumi set client secret -- secret. Client secret. Pulumi set tenant ID. Where's the tenant ID? There we go. And a subscription ID. I'm not sure I need the Azure login anymore if I have all this stuff. Let's see what it's done. So it's added a bunch of configuration settings here for us. And it's encrypted our client secret as well. Add Azure client ID secret subscription ID tenant ID. We'll push that up. Yeah, going back to our workflow, I'm not sure we need to log in anymore because we've set all the information that Pulumi needs. Maybe it can log in itself. I don't know. Let's go back to our repo. Oh, I've set it in a pull request. I've got way too many tabs open now. Invalid client secret. That's because I changed it. Let's change it back. Let's update it. And rerun that. Close some tabs down. Installing the .NET CLI SDK, sorry. Azure login. That should succeed, but maybe we can skip it in the next one and see if that works still. And then Pulumi action. Did we get any comments on here yet? Nope. Maybe this needs a successful run to get a comment. Let's collapse some of this down. It's thinking. Still thinking. Still errored. We need to authenticate using a service principal. We've done all that. Oh, we need to set these environment variables. Okay. So, secrets. We'll create some new secrets. Client ID is this guy. And we need client secret, new, and that is gonna get updated off screen. And one more, tenant ID and subscription ID. Tenant ID and subscription ID. Okay, so now I have all of those. Can I rerun you, please? Oh, I have a nice icon now as well. That's nice. Whoops. What's it doing? Details. I seem to have some nice extra Pulumi information popping up now. Rerun all the jobs. Stinking. We logged in. Doesn't half take some time when you're working with infrastructure. There is a bit of waiting around for things to happen, but I think that's just part of the job. You can reduce the amount of waiting if you have smaller stacks. So you can split up your infrastructure into different stacks. So if, I don't know, if you had a database, you can bring that up in one stack and then bring up a container app or app service or something in another app, in another stack, and then connect the two. So that is possible with Pulumi. That gives you smaller units of deployment. Should be quicker in theory. And what are we complaining about now? I was expecting that one to work. Still complaining about authenticating using the Azure CLI. Maybe I should just stop logging in using AZ login. So I'm just going to totally comment that out. Pull requests, AZ login. Stop logging in using the Azure CLI. I wish the Pulumi in the setup was a bit easier than this. The docs could use a bit of work, I think. So let's have a look at our PR now. We've got no comments yet. normal Azure CLI login going on, so it's a bit quicker. We'll see if it complains. I've got everything pushed, haven't I? Yep. Is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? Come on. We'll see if that works in a sec. If this works, it's a really nice workflow. Just setting up a PR, checking if didn't work. No such file or directory. Building auth config obtained subscription from Azure CLI. Error parsing JSON result from Azure CLI. Error waiting for the Azure CLI. Okay, I'm gonna have a play around with this and I will get it working for the next stream. In the meantime, I'll just show you what it's supposed to look like once you log in. Once you get it working, is you should start to see nice comments appearing in your GitHub action, but also more importantly in the PI itself. So you get your Pulumi checks here and it tells you what changed, which is super nice. And then the GitHub app, we had that installed, it tells you everything that changed. You can link off to Pulumi itself and see all of that information. And then of course when you complete it, the PR, the push GitHub action will run and you'll get your thing deployed. Very cool. If it worked, it would be very cool. So we'll carry on with that on the next stream. Well, I'll just show you the results of that on the next stream. On the next stream, we'll probably work on setting up an Azure Traffic Manager and figuring out how we can connect that up. And maybe stick Cloudflare in there as well. Cool. Thanks everyone. Hope you had fun. Do like and subscribe. It does help the channel out with the algorithm. You can find me on my blog rehansaid.com, or if you have any questions, you can stick a question on my Twitter handle rehansaiduk. Thanks everyone for watching, and I need to click the stop button, which I can't remember where it is.